So today we're going to be looking at fractions, simplifying fractions and equivalent fractions. To warm up our brains, we've got a quick bit of multiplication and division here, so pause the video and solve these for me. So 54 times 3 is 162, 32 times 6 is 192, 71 times 7 is 497, 26 times 4 is 104, 300 divided by 6 is 50, 180 divided by 9 is 20, 732 divided by 6 is 122, and 84 divided by 4 is 21. So all a fraction is part of a whole. So in this example here, our first picture, we have got 6 shaded squares out of 9. And we have 3 out of 9 that are white. And if we add those numbers together, it would give us a whole, or 9/9, which is 1. So we have 6 shaded out of 9. On our next picture, we've got 1 shaded out of 3. And 2 shaded out of 3 that are white. On our next picture, we've got 4 that are shaded, 4 that are not shaded, and again, if we add those together, it will give us a whole. So a fraction is just part of a whole. On our next one, we have 3 out of our total 8 that are shaded. So 3 out of 8 are shaded, and 5 out of 8 would not be shaded. Our bottom 3 are 3 out of 5, 4 out of 10, and 9 out of 12. So all this is how many out of the whole are shaded. Now, when we see a fraction, so 1 out of 4 or 1/4, we've got a top bit and a bottom bit. Our bottom number is something called the denominator, and I try and think of it as a demon because if we think of demons being in hell, it goes on the bottom, so it goes down. So the denominator is how many parts the shape or the quantity will split into. So for example, if I had £4 in £1 coins, so I'd have £1, £2, £3, and £4. If I took one of those here, I've taken 1 out of the 4, so £1 out of 4. My top number is called the numerator, and this is how many parts that we're interested in. So if I do another example here, so instead of money, let's do a pizza is always the obvious one, but let's do a pizza. So I'm splitting my pizza up here, and I'm splitting it up into 8. So my denominator, or how many equal parts my shape has been split into, would be 8. And if I ate 2 bits, I've eaten 2 of the 8 slices, which means that there is still 6 out of the 8 slices left for somebody else to eat. So we've got a question here which is to calculate 2/5 of 20, or 2 out of 5 of 20. And this is really straightforward. All we need to do is to divide 20 by 5. And we can do that visually here by splitting this block up. So I've split this block up into 5 equal shapes. And if I do 20 divided by 5, it's going to give me 4. Now I'm interested here, my numerator is telling me I'm interested in 2. I'm interested in 2 of the 5. So if I was to use this one and this one here, 4 plus 4 is 8. So I'm interested in £8 of the 20. And that's all that this question is asking me. It's asking me to be interested in 2 of the 5 parts of 20. So there's 2 questions here for you to try it by yourself, and then we'll go through the answers. So if you pause the video, and then we'll go through it together. Okay, so our first one then, we need to calculate 3/7 of £49. So we need to divide 49 by 7 because that will give us one part. And we can do that visually again if it helps. So I'm going to split this. This blue represents £49 and I'm going to split it into 7 equal parts. And if I know my times tables, then I know that each of those parts is going to be £7. So one part is £7. Now, the question is asking us for 3/7. So it's asking us for 3 parts. So I'm going to add together 1 part, 2 parts, and 3 parts. And if I add that together, that's going to give me £21. On our next one then, we're calculating 5/9 of £108. So we're going to do 108 divided it by 9, and that's going to give me 1 part. And then when I've got 1 part, I'm going to times that by 5 to give me 5 parts. So to make it visual again, let's get a big block and let's split it up into 9 equal parts. And 108 divided by 9 is 12. So 1 part is £12. And I'm interested, if we look at the top, I'm interested in 5 parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I add all of those 5 parts together, it's going to give me £60. I've got 3 questions here for you to try, so pause the video and then we'll go through the answers together. Okay, so we're after 1/3 of 36. So we're going to do 36 divided by 3, which will give us 12. So 12 is 1 part, and the question is only asking for 1 part. So 1/3 or 1 part of 3 of 36 is 12. On our next one, we're going to do 12 divided by 4, which will give us 3. So 1 part is 3, and I'm after 3 parts. So I'm going to times that by 3 to give me 9. Last one, I'm going to do 60 divided by 5, which is 12. So 12 is 1 part, and the question's asking for 4 parts. So I'm going to do 12 times 4, which is going to give me 48. So I'm posing a question here, which is, would you rather have 1/2, 4/8, or 2/4 of a pie? Well, a half, as the example here, is you shading one of the two. 4/8 would look a little bit like this, and 2/4 would look like this. So actually all of these numbers, all of these fractions are the same, or they are what we call equivalent. They are equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions, as we've just seen, are fractions that are the same. So if we look at this example here, 1/2 or 1/2 is the same as 2 over something. All we have to do is look at what we've had to do to this number here to make this number. And what I've had to do is times it by 2. So what I've done to the top, I also need to do to the bottom. So that 2, I'm going to times by 2 to give me 4. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. The next one along, we've got a third, and it's going into 3 over something. So on the top number, I've times it by 3, and I also need to do that to my bottom number. And if I times 3 by 3, it's going to give me 9. So 1/3 is the same as 3/9. Now, if you pause the video here, we're then going to go through the answers as soon as you have unpaused the video. Okay, so on our first one then, we have 1/4 is the same or the equivalent as 4/16. 1/5 is equivalent to 5 over 25. Don't know why I've started writing that there. Next one along, 1/2 is the same as 5/10. 1/3 is the same as 4/12. 1/4 is the same as 2/8, and 1/5 is the same or equivalent to 3/15. Then we have 10/20. 1/3 is equivalent to 5/15. 1/4 is the same as 3/12. 1/5 would be 4/20. Half is 4/8. A third is 2/6. 1/4, 5/20, and finally 1/5 is 5/25. Another set for you to try here, so pause the video and then we'll go through the answers. Okay then, so 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. 1/2 here is the equivalent of 4/8, 3/6, and also 6/12. Then we have 1/3 is equivalent to 5/15, 4/12, 3/9, and 4/12 again here. 1/4 is equivalent to 5/20, 4/16, 3/12, and over here we'd put 3/12 again. Then on the 1/5, that's equivalent to 5/25 or 5/25. On a quarter here, so we've had to times this by 8, so that's going to be 8/32. Then 1/4 is the same as 5/20, and finally here we have 4/16. Now, final thing we're going to be looking at is simplifying fractions. So we've been looking at equivalent fractions, about how 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4 and so on and so forth. And in most exam questions, they like you to simplify a question down to its smallest form. So if we look at this fraction here, 16/20, what we need to do is to find the highest common factor of both of these numbers so that we can make it smaller. So this is a bit of a recap to what we were doing. So let's do the highest common factor here, and I'm going to do the prime factor method because this is a good recap. And if you don't know what I'm doing here, then I suggest you go back and look at one of the earlier videos because you do need to know how to do this. Okay, and what I do is I multiply those that are the same. So I have 2 and a 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So the highest common factor between 16 and 20 is 4. So what I'm going to do now is divide both of those numbers by 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 16/20 is equivalent to 4/5, but 4/5 tends to be how we present it in exam questions because it's the simplest form of those numbers. We have another try here, so we have 24/56. So we're going to do the highest common factors again. So I'm going to do it as the prime factor method. Okay, and again, I'm only going to be doing those ones that are the same, that are common, which are the 2's. So 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So 8 is our highest common factor with these two numbers. So I'm going to divide my top and bottom numbers by 8, which will give me 3/7. So 24/56 and 3/7 are equivalent fractions, but 3/7 will be the preferred way of writing it most of the time because it is the simplest form.